Yo, what is up guys? Boris here, and I'm coming to you guys with my review of Hunter x Hunter chapter 362. What a joy it is to be able to review these chapters once again. And I know that I missed last week, but trust me, this is going to be a good review. I hope you guys watch the whole thing. So first thing I want to mention is that this chapter drops a lot of information, and it in fact pretty much confirms a theory that I had, that the eldest prince of Kakin are based off of the 7 deadly sins. I'll be talking about that a little bit later, but first off, let me recap everything that's been going on in this chapter and a little bit of what I missed in the last chapter. So if you guys remember, we are in the middle of the Prince Succession War. We're going to be able to find the next king of Kakin. Whoever survives is going to be the king, and so things are about to get really messy. Now each prince has a Nen beast that was given to them through the ceremony, and what happened was that apparently they don't even know about it because they don't have Nen, so they don't have the ability to see the Nen beast. They're parasitic type Nen beast, and this chapter we finally get a reveal of a lot of the Nen beasts that we hadn't seen yet. I think there's still a few that we haven't seen from some of the younger princes, but some of these Nen beasts look pretty terrifying. Now it's been a long time. This might be the most fear I've ever felt ooze out of a chapter. Tserriednich really is being set up as this huge evil villain that really I hadn't taken too seriously before. He did have some really cool panels and his art was okay, but in this chapter Togashi really steps it up and really shapes Tserriednich to be this huge evil presence that's going to be throughout the whole arc. And in fact, he might be the most evil person we've met in Hunter x Hunter, maybe besides Gyro, but we haven't really learned too much about Gyro in a long time. So he is looking to be a potentially very evil villain who really is going to be very unpredictable. And if you guys remember, he is really planning a lot. He's many steps ahead. Now the reason I say this is because we do get a little glimpse of Theta, who is a character, maybe you guys don't remember, was introduced back in Hunter x Hunter chapter 348, and Theta seems to be the main bodyguard for Tserriednich. Now keep in mind that back in that chapter, Tserriednich showed how far ahead he's planning in terms of competing against the other top 5 princes. Really, those are the main contenders, although I'm going to talk about why I don't think that is actually the case, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. But he is really planning ahead and making sure that he's a step ahead of pretty much all the top half of the princes, because those are going to be the main threat, at least in his eyes. Now while you're looking back at chapter 348, do take note of what Tserriednich ended up doing during that chapter, because it ties very closely to this chapter. You'll notice that he managed to correctly predict which of the princes would not participate in the Hunter exam when that was happening, and or at least their bodyguards, and he noticed that Benjamin and Tyson would both not participate, which he ended up being correct. It shows how smart he is, but the reason I point this out is because he notices arrogance and jealousy as the reason for them not sending their bodyguards to the exam. Now obviously Benjamin, the first prince, arrogance, and Tyson, jealousy. And then later on he says, he mentions the 7 deadly sins. And on top of that, he also notices that Lazarus, all of his soldiers, failed the exam. So that's another thing to keep in mind about him. I'm going to mention him a little bit later once we talk about what happened in this chapter. But he says something is missing from the 7 deadly sins. So this has been a theory that I guess the first 8 princes are based on the 7 deadly sins, because you don't include Tserriednich. He's not included. But the rest of them are based on the 7 deadly sins. And as you can see here, the first prince, arrogance, pride, and the 6th prince, jealousy. So envy, of course, is one of the 7 deadly sins. And so this has been a theory, but now with this new chapter, it pretty much confirms this theory, because of the fact that in the beginning, when we first see the conversation between Tubepa, I don't know how you say it, and Tserriednich, Tubepa mentions that he wants to wipe out the first 3 by making an alliance with Tserriednich. Now right there, Togashi indicates arrogant for Benjamin, once again brings up arrogant, greedy for Camilla, I believe is her name, the number 2, and number 3 is consumed by lacks and luxury. So right there we have pride, we have greed, and we have gluttony. So those are the 3. And so the other ones, like we mentioned earlier, jealousy, which is envy, for number 6, Tyson. Lazarus, we see him in this chapter, actually, the 362. We see Lazarus actually is told that he can learn Len, but it's going to take him a year, and he decides to not even bother. So that's sloth, that's lazy. And then we have obviously Saleh, which is number 8. He's lust because he's always surrounded by women. He doesn't even care. He really shows in this chapter that he does not care about the succession war. And so that just leaves wrath, which would be corresponding to Tubepa. And obviously in this chapter we see Tubepa, a huge panel of him, or I guess actually I believe she is a female, of her, then saying they should all be purged. So Tubepa is ready to wage war. She represents wrath. And so essentially the reason I bring this up is because this is going to be their downfall. That each of these princes, I believe personally, will end up losing or dying during the succession war due to their sin. So keep that in mind for future chapters. Whenever you see one of these fall, it's probably going to be due to their sin, whether it's because they're lazy, because of the lust, or because of arrogance. You're going to see it happen, I'm pretty sure. I think Togashi's been setting that up. And the reason I say this is because Tserriednich, like I said, he took note of it back in chapter 348, and he's still taking note of it now. So he is going to plan according to taking advantage of each of their sins, each of their weaknesses, and exploiting that. So that's why I think that is going to happen. Now, with that said, so what exactly is going to happen then in the war? If Tserriednich is really ahead of those princes, then I think the key factors are going to be the younger ones. The younger ones are going to be the deciding key as to how this is all going to play out. Because we have 1 through 8. I just mentioned what's going to happen with them. I believe 9 is Hulkenberg, but Hulkenberg, as you can see, he's not even going to participate. And we saw this chapter, his whole bodyguard army was wiped out. So that just leaves the bottom 5. One of them being Wobble, who really can't do much, although his Nen Beast might be able to do a good thing or two. Obviously, Kurapika's with Wobble. And of course, there are other factors, but we're talking about just the prince and that dynamic of just what is going to happen between them. Wobble can't really do much. He's just a kid. He's just a baby. And same thing with Miriam. Miriam is being very protected by his mother, as we saw in this chapter. No, I believe last chapter. He's being protected. He's taking. She took bodyguards away from Momoz towards Miriam. So that's some death flags right there, potentially. I don't think he's going to be able to do too much. So, in my opinion, the main key players that are going to decide where this war is going to go is going to be the 3 young female princess, which is Kasho, Fugetsu, and Momoz. Momoz already saw that she feels bad for Miriam and her mother because they are not willing to win the war. They are not capable of winning the war, which means Momoz thinks he is. Kasho and Fugetsu have made an alliance, and in my opinion, they are going to be 2 out of the 3 key players. Now, Hulkenberg could potentially be a key player, but he's pretty straightforward. We know he's a pacifist. He doesn't want to participate in this. He's going to be forced to participate, whether he wants to or not. But to be honest, I think that at the end of the day, Tserriednich, I don't know how to say it. I think he is underestimating Kasho, Fugetsu, and Momoz. And I think they're going to be some of the key players that are going to shift what the potential outcome is of the war. Now, this is all based on stuff from this chapter. That's why I'm talking so much about it. That's the dynamic that I think Togashi is going for. In terms of the Nen Beast, like normal, look pretty terrifying. Obviously, I think the ones from the elder princess look much more terrifying than the ones from the younger ones. Obviously, the younger ones are not as old, so they probably aren't as, full of fear, or I don't know, full of power. They're just innocent, so their Nen Beasts look a lot more innocent as well. And going back to Theta, what I have to say about her? Well, obviously, this is Togashi at his best, setting up a character, setting up the situation, going through all of the possibilities about how they're going to deal with Prince Tserriednich's Nen, how they're going to go about teaching him Nen, only for a few panels later, a few pages later, for there to be a huge panel saying, "I was naive." He threw everything out the window, and now all that is left is just Theta completely clueless, not knowing what to do, just instinctually responding. Oh my god, the panel of Tserriednich is oozing evil, like I said at the beginning of the video. This dude is a threat. This dude, if he learns Nen, is going to be one of the most powerful Nen users. And I don't know, who knows what he's capable of. What is going to happen to Theta? I don't know. Trust me, guys, this is not going to be another Meruem Komugi. The reason Meruem Komugi even happened was because Meruem was an evolving character. His whole idea behind him is that he was evolving as he progressed. He was learning more about himself, his place in the world, and what other people represent. And Tserriednich is just an evil person he's very smart and he's very complex, but he's not gonna evolve too much beyond what he already is. So trust me, they're not gonna get another Komugi and Meruem. Now the question is, will Theta survive? I mean, I don't know. I'm not expecting, this is Hunter x Hunter. Most people like Theta's position would probably end up dying. However, we don't know everything about Tserriednich. He might end up, he might be a person who does value people who end up helping him in some ways, so maybe he'll let her survive, but chances are she might not get the best ending. I feel bad for her. And finally, just the art in this chapter was amazing. And maybe not the art, but the way that Togashi lays out the panels is incredible. The one panel, the whole page is taken up by by the Nen beast of Tserriednich, that creepy woman face. When you flip to that page, you just feel the same sort of feeling that you would feel if you were in the room, and obviously not the same, but it comes close, as close as you can get with a page of paper within the manga. So holy crap, this is a crazy chapter, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed my ranting, or I guess not really rant, just my thoughts. I could go on for a lot more, but I feel like this is appropriate length for a video like this. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts about Hunter x Hunter chapter, whatever this is, 362 or something, down below. And yeah, it's just crazy. I can't wait, and I'm really excited to be able to do these videos again every week. So with that said, guys, thanks all for watching. Talk to you in the next video, and until then, peace.